So let's get started. Matt, you with us?
Hey, right here. Am I on?
Hey, Matt, how are you?
Awesome. Good to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. So let's get right into it. So, who do you got as your top five QBs?
All right. Well, before we talk about quarterbacks, I think that we should note our preferences of when we're going to try to draft quarterbacks. Um, Typically, I usually don't draft quarterbacks until the late rounds. I'm one of those guys that thinks that any quarterback really will do. You don't see like differing numbers between maybe a Cam Newton or a Jay Cutler,
Yeah,
whereas you would see differences between like running backs where you got, an Eddie Lacy against like like a no-name running back for the Titans or something like that. So I
yeah.
really think they should draft a quarterback later. But for my top five quarterbacks, I have Cam Newton first, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, and then Jay Cutler.
Nice. Yeah, and I totally agree with what you say about drafting QBs in the later rounds. Usually, as running backs have become a little scarce. It's just a different league. It's a passing league now. So we're going toward wide receivers in the higher rounds. So I usually go around wide receivers, then running backs, then touch on the QBs and maybe the fourth to fifth rounds because, like you said, anyone will do. You know, there's 32 starters and most of them put up good numbers and now every team has at least a couple elite wide receivers. So you want to focus maybe on the position players because sometimes they're going to get you more points than QBs. My top five
Exactly.
QBs are Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Cam Newton, Drew Brees, and Andrew Luck. Now, as soon as you said your list, I was like, Jay Cutler, like, you put him over some guys. Explain why you have Cutler in your top five.
Yeah, I like how Cutler finally has an offensive coordinator that he's comfortable with. He's known his offensive coordinator, who is actually his quarterback coach. I can pull his name up right here, but he's known him for a few years. He was the quarterback coach last year, but Cutler's known him for more than just last year. So let me pull up his name real quick. But I also like the Bears' weapons they got. You have Kevin White basically in his rookie season. You
Mm-hmm.
have Alshon Jeffrey coming back on the franchise tag. You got
Yep.
Zach Miller, who proved to be a red zone threat last year, coming back.
Agreed.
And then you also got the small guys like Daniel Braverman, who's the new rookie. He's looking to be good in the slot. And you also have Marquez Wilson coming back for his third season, I think, who had a couple nice catches when he had to fill in for Alshon Jeffrey when he was hurt last year. So I just like the Bears' weapons overall. I think that Kadeem Carey's trying to prove himself right now, and he's doing really good catching and receiving the ball as a running back from the backfield. And I think that obviously Jeremy Langford is their guy now with Forte gone, so I think that he's going to have a big impact as well. So I just overall like Cutler's weapons. I love the offensive line. I think they're going to do a good job protecting him this year. Kyle Long, I think, is probably one of the best offensive linemen in the entire NFL. He's made the All-Pro team 3 years in a row at 3 different positions. So I just think Cutler's got some really great weapons.
Yeah. Now, would you say the same for Cutler if he, for say, lost Alshon Jeffrey again to injury?
Again, that's tough because I mean I call Jeffrey a poor man's Megatron. Obviously, Megatron's gone, so Jeffrey might have to step up as the best wide receiver in the NFC. But it's really tough to say because, I mean, the Bears do have a lot of great receivers, but they don't really have many guys like Jeffrey where they're super tall and could go up and catch those fly routes or things like that. So, it's really tough to say. I hope it doesn't come to that, but if it does, it would be really interesting to watch.
Did you have Drew Brees or Andrew Luck in your top five?
I had Drew Brees. The thing is that Drew Brees is always a consistent player. He's always going to get you great yards, no matter if the Saints are doing good or bad. The Saints are always a pass first team. They've always passed the ball tons. So I really think that Drew Brees will pick you up the good yardage and get some good touchdowns. He also has a lot of good options this year too. You got Michael Thomas coming out of Ohio State as a rookie this year, and then you also have Brandon Cooks, who obviously blew up last year. He's kind of like the new Marcus Wilson. So I like his weapons as well.
Another thing with Drew Brees, in the past, he's had guys banged up or he hasn't had the best receiving core, but, he's always found that one guy to to work with, and he shows that he's like Tom Brady. We looked at the past couple wide receivers with Tom Brady. He's made guys better. No matter who he's with, he's gonna get the ball in the end zone, and he's gonna make guys better. So yeah, he's always a great consistent pick.
Exactly.
I had Andrew Luck in my top 5. I did not hear you say his name.
Yeah, how come? I'm curious as to why you have Andrew Luck.
Well, I mean, we know last year he was dealing with injury. He wasn't on top of his game, and I don't think he was 100% for one game. But then you go
Right.
back to, before that, he was one of the most top talked QBs in the league. He was doing what he was doing at Stanford and even better. And he has the threats. He's got T.Y. Hilton, Dante Moncrief, and he's got a solid O-line. A lot of those guys are Pro Bowlers, and I think some of them have All-Pro under their belt. But Andrew Luck, last year was hard for him. He was dealing with the kidney issue and some other injuries. So he got that huge contract this summer,
Right.
most guaranteed for a QB. So it's nice to have some money under your belt. And I think he's definitely still one of the best QBs in the league, because last year you really can't count it against him because he was just trying to play hurt.
I just don't like the overall Colts game plan right now. I don't see their receivers doing as well as they have in the past, and I think that they have a little bit of a running back problem, so I think it's going to be hard for Andrew Luck since defenses are going to know he's going to look to pass the majority of the time, so I think he's going to struggle a little bit there. But let's talk about why we have Cam Newton and Russell Wilson on the top 5. I would say it's probably just because of their utility. A great thing to have as owning a quarterback is to have a quarterback that can run and maybe get you some rushing touchdowns, because that gives you a bunch of extra points and things like that when they pick up yards, because it's in our league that we play in, it's a point for every 25 yards passing, but it's also 1 point for every 10 yards running. So the running quarterbacks in the league really get you a great amount of points. However, you should never draft a quarterback that's like all about running, sort of like a Terrell Pryor from a few years back, because he's not going to throw well, so you're going to get less points, even though he's going to get a lot of points running. So I always like to go for those kind of hybrid quarterbacks like Newton or Wilson that are going to get you throwing touchdowns, rushing yards, and passing yards.
Yeah, they can
really
do a little bit of both. Yeah,
exactly.
And I like Cam Newton especially in my top 5 this year because, he did it last year without. He did it last year without Kelvin Benjamin.
Right. I mean, he has to be.
Yeah, he's definitely in there, and now he's got Benjamin back. So that's even his numbers should even go up even a lot more. He made it to the Super Bowl. He didn't do well in the Super Bowl, but his first time there, it's hard, especially going against that Bronco defense. But yeah, he's the utility. He's the utility man. He's gonna throw. He's gonna run. He's gonna scramble, and he's not afraid to pick up yardage.
Right, and they have essentially the same weapons coming back, except you got Benjamin, who's going to be their best wide receiver. You still got Olsen as a red zone threat.
Yeah.
And then you also got Devin Funchess on his sophomore season, so he's looked to pick up some more experience, and he's having a good camp and everything. So, yeah, it could be good.
And then you had Aaron Rodgers in your top 5, right?
My last quarterback is Aaron Rodgers, just because I think Aaron Rodgers is still the best quarterback in the NFL right now. He's got what has to be the best weapons. You got Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams, Eddie Lacy. You got the backup running back. I think is it James Grant? It's James something. I don't know the exact name of his backup running back, but he's always good out of the backfield catching passes and everything. So, I mean, he's still got his All-Pro line, T.J. Lang, all those guys. So, I just think that Aaron Rodgers is still going to be the best quarterback in the NFL. Yeah,
I mean, last year with those crazy Hail Marys and and again, like with Cam Newton, he did it without Jordy Nelson. Jordy Nelson got hurt, and Randall Cobb became the number 1. But now both Newton and Rodgers have their guy back, so should be even better years for them.
Exactly.
So we talked about our top 5. Those are the guys that are the top targets, guys you should target. Especially in, like Matt and I agree, in the later rounds, because QBs are QBs. So let's go into maybe a sleeper QB that you should look for out on your fantasy draft day. Matt, who's your sleeper?
This is going to be a little surprising, but I have Ryan Fitzpatrick as my sleeper. He signed that contract. I think he's in a contract year, right? He signed a 1-year deal with the Jets.
Yeah, just 1-year deal.
Right, so he has to prove himself. Every single game last year, for a string of about 10 or 8 games, he had over 10 points. I think he might have been the only quarterback to do that. So I just like the consistency. I always love having a consistent quarterback that you know is going to get you those 10 points or over. So that's why I have him as a sleeper. I like his new weapons in Matt Forte, and Brandon Marshall has the confidence of a lion, thinks he's about to be the best wide receiver in the NFL, so we'll see about that.
We'll see.
I just really like his weapons and everything, too.
Marshall, and they have Eric Decker, too, right?
Oh, true. They do have Eric Decker, too, coming out of the spot. Yeah.
Marshall, I mean, last year was maybe one of the best of his career yet. Like,
right.
He had something 8 or 9 touchdowns. I mean, I had him on my fantasy team. I enjoyed him on my team because he put up a lot of big numbers. And Fitzpatrick, you know, he came out of the rough a little bit. You know, everyone's like, what is he going to do? And, you know, he showed up. And this year, you know, this off season, he was, you know, they wanted to get a long-term deal done because he showed he could be the QB. But the sides never matched up. But now he's on the 1-year deal, and if he plays well again, you got to pay him. You know, this year they were a little, they were a little cautious, right? You know, you just 1 year, it's hard to judge if you're going to really want to pay him the big bucks. But in today's NFL, you know, the money's huge. So definitely, you know, the contract year again. So we'll see how he does, and he's playing for that big money that he wanted this offseason.
Exactly. He's going to go for it. Yeah.
So you had Fitzpatrick. My sleeper QB is Brock Osweiler.
I like that.
I do too. You know, he's got great size. You know, he came in last year for the Broncos and helped to win some games, get them, you know, they're getting to the playoffs, right? The Broncos had home field advantage.
Right. I really think that if I can just say one thing here, I think that Brock Osweiler owes a lot of his credit to Peyton Manning. You know, he was under Manning for 2 years or so, and he really probably got to learn the game from one of the best, if not the best, quarterback of all time. I just think the experience that he's got from Manning is going to help him in the passing game. I really liked a lot of his games last year. I mean, he had a few where he fell short in yards, but I really like his passing style and his whole game plan and everything. So I think he's going to be really good. He's really tall, can see over most players. So I think he's going to be able to read. Yeah, I think he's going to be able to read those passing lines really, really well and really quick. And I just like his decision making sometimes.
Yeah, in Houston, right? They have Hopkins, so he's already got a huge weapon that he hit. I mean, last year he had Sanders and Demaryius Thomas to throw to, but now he's got Hopkins, and he's got a well-rounded receiving core there. The Texans, they drafted Miller, right? Braxton Miller.
Yeah, they did.
They did. So yeah, that's right. There's your 1-2 punch right there, and you know, we had a little trouble with the deep ball last year, but hopefully that's something he worked on in the off season. But
he's got to improve his arm a little bit.
Yeah, but you know, we'll see if like the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers kind of mentor thing rubbed off on Brock Osweiler. And I mean, I think he's going to be a good quarterback. I don't see any problems with him besides the deep ball. You know, the height is huge. I mean, Russell Wilson defined, always short. He's going to be bad, but he defined it. But then you look at the height. No one's going to say, he's going to be a bad quarterback. So he's got a little bit of proving to do, but he's got a good place in the league.
Sure, and he's got J.J. Watt in the end zone.
Yeah, so he's got a big man to target for sure.
Exactly.
So moving on here. So there was a lot of rookie quarterbacks in this draft, particularly your big three. You got Goff, Wentz, and Paxton Lynch. My best rookie is Paxton Lynch. He's going to Denver. I think he's going to start right away, as he should. He's got the size like Brock Osweiler. He's 6'6", and I mean, he's just in Memphis. He was just throwing bombs. And Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, they're both deep ball threats. So it's going to be exciting. Especially preseason, he's going to get a lot of reps. He's not going to have Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders out there with him most of the time because it's preseason and you get the starters at rest. But we'll see a little bit of Paxton Lynch's arm in the preseason. And probably in the regular season too. I mean, those guys are fast. Their arm. I mean, even like in like the Gruden QB camp. I mean, he might be next to Wentz and Goff, maybe one of the best all-around, probably the best all-around QB in the draft, I'd say.
Right. I also have Paxton Lynch, obviously, like I told you. But there has to be an asterisk there. We don't know if Paxton's going to start right away. Terrell Davis, the running back from the Broncos in the 97-98 seasons where they won back-to-back Super Bowls, he was quoted saying that he thinks that Mark Sanchez is the guy for the job. Terrell Davis also had Gary Kubiak, who's the head coach now, as the offensive coordinator back then. So he thinks that he knows Kubiak's system really well, and he thinks Sanchez is the guy for the job. So I still have Paxton as my top rookie because I think, like every year, that Mark Sanchez is going to start to flounder. So even if Mark Sanchez does start, I think that Paxton Lynch is going to eventually become the starter during the season, if not become the starter during the first game. So we'll have to see on that. But I just think that going into a team that's won a Super Bowl last year with the weapons you have, I really think that there's no other way that he is not going to be the best rookie quarterback, I should say, coming out of the draft.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a battle, too, in training camp and preseason, because Mark Sanchez is a veteran. He's got a lot to prove, and so does Lynch coming in as a rookie, showing that he can play like he did in college, even though, they're completely different games. He still has to prove that he's the QB they've seen on film. But Mark Sanchez has to go back to when he was, the good QB with the Jets, not the butt fumble Mark Sanchez. So
exactly.
Yeah, so we'll see. It's definitely going to be – that's probably one of the best quarterback races to watch in preseason. I'd say that's probably the top one because, I can't really think of another team that has a conflict right now. The Broncos.
Maybe the Eagles. Maybe the
Eagles, but the Broncos Super Bowl champions, you just lost your starting QB, so you got to fight it out to earn your spot there. So we'll see how that plays out.
Right. All right, should we move on to the top backup quarterback? Because as we all know, quarterbacks do go down, and sometimes backup quarterbacks are great ads for a week if you need a quarterback, things like that.
Yeah. Last year, my backup quarterback, I drafted Jameis Winston, but, I really didn't. I started him only a couple games. Usually, the bye weeks, you go on the waiver wire, you get the guys who've been consistent over the past weeks. But, as the new QBs emerge in the league, like Newton and Andrew Luck and all these other, Brock Osweiler, like I said, all these other guys are emerging. You see the guys who used to be at the top now going down to the bottom half of the QB. So my sleeper QB, my backup, is Matt Ryan.
Good pick.
Matt Ryan, it is a good pick because Matt Ryan, he's got Julio Jones, he's got Mohamed Sanu, Eric Weems, and then he has Freeman out of the backfield. Freeman had a lot of receiving yards last year, so that's going to be good for Ryan's resume. But he's thrown 4,000 yards over the past 4 or 5 seasons. He has a good touchdown rate. His interceptions are a little high, but if you need that backup QB for 1 or 2 weeks or your quarterback's down for a week, you got the bye week, I'd say Matt Ryan is one of the safest and best picks for your backup QB.
Right. I'm going to have to go with Ben Roethlisberger. I think that Big Ben always gives you consistent points. Ben Roethlisberger is like a Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I think, he's either a little worse or a little better on some weeks. He can drop 40 like he did one game, or he can drop 10 like he does sometimes. But I really think that Roethlisberger has a ton of weapons. Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, D'Angelo Williams.
Yeah.
He's really got Heath Miller. He's just got a multitude of options. So I think that Ben Roethlisberger is also going to be a guy that's going to give you some solid points. So I like him as a backup, maybe grab in the last round or so if you can.
And you as a fantasy player, you're looking at backups. You're like, you're hoping for starter points, but it's not going to be starter points.
Right.
So you're going for what you can. Ben Roethlisberger, lowest 10, he had the high 40, but the low 10, that's still not bad on a bye week, especially if you end up with an opponent that has a worse record than you do.
Exactly, and like we said earlier, sometimes quarterbacks are going to give the same amount of points no matter what.
Yeah.
Like a Cam Newton is going to get the same amount of points that Ben Roethlisberger will get some weeks. Some weeks are just off. So quarterbacks are really a unique topic to discuss.
Yeah. Certainly was a unique topic, but then another unique topic is definitely the running backs. We look at the running backs. We look at the running backs this year and the past couple of years, and as fantasy players, we miss the Chris Johnson, Maurice Jones-Drew, the old AP. Even though AP is still great, we miss the old AP. We miss the days where running backs were your top 2 picks, no matter what. But now it's changed, more of a passing league, and you're looking at, tight ends and wide receivers going, at the 1-2 punch in your draft. So let's talk running backs right now. So I got my top running backs in order are AP, Le'Veon Bell. Yes, Le'Veon Bell will get his suspension appealed. I am hoping he does. Because, I don't see it. I know he missed some drug tests, but he's confident that he's going to get it appealed. So there's obviously, something that the NFL missed, or there was maybe like a valid excuse, but we'll see how that plays out. Really haven't had a lot of news in that department recently.
Right. Regardless, if Le'Veon Bell doesn't get a suspension appealed, he'll still be a great running back anyway. So.
Yeah, for sure. Number 3, I have Todd Gurley. Number 4, I have Devonta Freeman. I think he could move. Him and Gurley could kind of switch off because they both had great years. Freeman's more of the receiver back. Gurley's gonna beat you in the open field. He's gonna be a little aggressive. But those guys can switch off. Those are both guys to target. And then to round out the top 5, I have Eddie Lacy, the new and improved Eddie Lacy.
God, I love Eddie Lacy, dude. I think he's going to be great this year. So
you love
my
Eddie
top
Lacy.
5, I do. I've had him all 3 all year, 3 years. So I've been playing fantasy football lately.
Even the fat one.
Even through the fat years. So I have Todd Gurley as my number 1. I got Adrian Peterson as the number 2. Of course, Eddie Lacy is my number 3. I got Matt Forte, surprisingly, at my number 4. And then I got Jeremy Hill from Cincinnati Bengals as my number 5 to round him up. Let's go over why we have Todd Gurley in the top. I really think that, regardless of the move to Los Angeles, I think that Gurley last year lit up the stage when he came onto the show. I know he was hurt for the first few weeks, but when he came back, when he made his debut, he was great. He had been great since. He really was the number 1 running back, I think, in the past or the last few games of the season. So I think that Gurley's going to just resume his prowess and just keep doing great and everything. And I think that he's got a nice line behind him, or a nice young offensive line. I think it's going to do some good blocking for him, and obviously he's going to run through everybody just like he did last year. So I really like Todd Gurley.
Yeah, and now they got Goff, quarterback, so you'll definitely see, he's a rookie quarterback. You're probably going to see...
You're going to see a lot of running, yeah.
A lot of run, yeah, to start, a lot of short passes, because you got to gain up the confidence of the rookie. You're not going to go big right away, so the offense will probably lean on Gurley for probably the first quarter of the year, but throughout the year, he's a 20 per carry game guy, for sure. But
oh, yeah.
They're going to get creative. It's going to be a creative offense, and Gurley, I could even see him in the slot. So
right, yeah, no, Gurley's fast, so he can do things like that. He's kind of a jack of all trades type of running back.
But yeah, there's times last year where I tried to trade for Gurley, because the running back department, you lose your 1 or 2, you're in trouble. It's how it's been the past couple of years. So, it's important to get the one running back. You need your RB1. You need a strong RB1.
And there's not many out there, so.
There's not many out there.
Grab one.
Outside of the top 10, just looking at ESPN, it's hard to pick guys out of the top 10 to say, oh yeah, I can put him as an RB1. I can draft 2 wide receivers and then go to running back. No, you got to grab a running back early.
Right. Moving on to my second running back, Adrian Peterson. We could talk about him a little bit. I just think that Adrian Peterson, like every year in Minnesota, is always relied upon to be the guy. For some reason, they just cannot seem to build a receiving game, so they're always run. Adrian Peterson's always going to get 20 carries a game, so I really think he's got to be your go-to guy as a running back 1. He'll always get you touchdowns in the red zone, and he'll always get you yards, really, unless he has some off-the-field consequence or, he gets hurt or something like that, because he is getting a little bit older. So.
Yeah, in the past, the only thing that's really hurt AP is his injuries.
Right.
Outside of that, he's always been a reliable player, and he's still got plenty left in the tank. And another thing with the Vikings is, his numbers seem to go down because they overuse him. Bridgewater's played well, so hopefully we'll see a lot more pass in that offense. We did a little last year, but they have to use AP smart because he isn't the rookie or the star that he used to be. He's still a very reliable back, but you got to spread the rock around because when you give him the rock, every couple other plays, he's going to do damage. You give it to him every play, you can't rely on him. It's like, back in the day when all the Bears had was Walter Payton before Jim McMahon.
Exactly.
You just can't have a one-dimensional offense because, he's going to pile on the stats, but you're not going to pile on the wins.
Right, and defenses are going to start to pick up on that, and so it'll make it harder for him to run. It'll make it harder for Pounder to throw passes and things like that. So,
Did you have Devonta Freeman?
No, I cannot stand Devonta Freeman. I actually like his backup better than him. I think that Freeman was a sort of a one-hit wonder last year, a one-season wonder, you would say. I just can't. I like Tevin Coleman a lot.
Coleman?
I love Tevin Coleman. I had him for the first few games this year when he got the start, and he had great points and everything. He had great yardage per carry. Freeman, it's just that he got hurt, and so he got benched, and that's why Freeman got the chance, and Freeman proved that he could play. I'm sorry, I can't get behind Freeman as a top running back.
But if he was that good, right, he would come back and resume the starting spot.
I think he will. I think that he is going to get the starting spot back. I'll give him a few weeks. I'll give Freeman a few weeks. I think that he's going to start to struggle, and then Coleman's going to see the rise.
But like Freeman did it all last year. He
did.
Blocked, he received.
He just had a good year. But look what happened to DeMarco Murray. Right? He had almost the most yards of all time, and then he goes to the Eagles and he just flounders.
Yeah, because he changed teams. Freeman is on the Falcons still. He's in the same system. Freeman is going to have another great year.
I don't know. We'll see about that.
I would take him over Gurley.
I can't do that. There's no way.
Of course, you want to go AP, and if Le'Veon Bell gets a suspension uplifted, you go those two.
Right, but
I would definitely say Freeman over Gurley right now.
I just had to say we'll see about that one. Let's move on to Eddie Lacy from the Packers, my favorite.
P90X.
Right. He's lost so much weight. He's faster now, although he may have lost a little bit of his brute strength just running into people like a freight train. But I still think that he's got that. Right. He has an amazing field vision and everything. He hits all his holes, and he's still behind one of the best offensive lines in the game. Obviously, the Packers' passing game is basically top 5 elite passing games in the NFL. So he really has all the weapons at his disposal. So I think he's going to have another great year. I mean, he struggled a little bit last year, lost the weight, got better in the offseason this year. I think he's going to be amazing like he was his rookie season.
Yeah, and him being such a, he was when he was thin before he got big. This year again, he's going to open up a lot of opportunities, not just for himself, but for the offense. If he has a dominant year, he goes on to be one of the top guys this year. Especially like in the play action game, right? You're going to think Eddie Lacy's getting the football, but then the play action linebackers bite up. You got an easy first down with Aaron Rodgers. He's gonna help out the whole team for sure.
Right, of course. I think Lacy is a surefire good constant pick that you can make in the top round or maybe second round.
Yeah, I'd say maybe toward the third.
Yeah, I mean,
it depends how the draft is.
Right.
It's, you just got to feel for it. But I'd say, you grab your number 1, and I think Lacy's a good number 2 if he's still there.
Exactly. So moving on to my number 4, I have Matt Forte of newly acquired by the Jets. And the reason I have Forte is because I really think that he might be the most constant running back in the NFL. No matter what he does, whether it's running or whether it's receiving, I think that he really gets you points one way or the other. I think that he's going to find a way to get you that 10 points a game that you're looking for from almost every single player in your fantasy team. It depends on what league you're playing. If you're playing a yards get you points league, I don't know what those are called. I have never played in one of those, but he's going to get you a ton of points in that standard because he always catches. He's basically a fourth receiver, you could call him.
Yeah.
So
and
I love Forte.
Everyone says, he's 30. Everyone says, running backs change once they hit that age. It's the age that everyone fears to give him a contract. Hence why the Bears let him go.
Right.
They had an up-and-coming star in Langford. So they looked at it and, do you pay Forte or do we give Langford the rock now? And they made the right decision. Because then they went out and got, Howard, who is a pound for pound. He's going to run over you. So you got the speed back in Langford. You got the power back in Howard. You got Jacquizz Rodgers, your third down guy, and then Kadeem Carey whenever he's needed. But back to Matt Forte, I think he's not just a product of the Bears system at all. He's definitely going to thrive in any system because he can catch, he can run, and he's been consistent throughout his whole career. He's been banged up a little bit, but who hasn't?
Right.
So I think he'll do very well in New York. Depends I think I'm not really sure about the Jets offense. I think last year they had Chris Ivory as their running back, right?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, and he had a good year, so they definitely hand the ball off a lot. But with Forte, they're definitely gonna use him in the passing game a lot. Maybe see some slot, but definitely third and long, you want to look at the check down where no one thinks you're gonna go. Forte's the perfect guy to do that. So I think
exactly. I think he's gonna have a nice constant year.
That's a good spot to put him. I think you could draft him over Lacy.
Maybe. I don't know. I'd take Lacy over Forte, but I still think that Forte is one of the top 5 running backs. So.
Yeah.
All right. The last guy I had, which comes as a surprise to a lot of people, is Jeremy Hill. Hill last year started off the season outstanding. I think he was the top running back for the first 3 weeks. He had the most points.
He did.
He had it. Yeah, he had a couple multi-touchdown games, a lot of yards, everything like that. So I think that I think that now this is his 3rd season, right?
I believe so, 3rd season.
Yeah, okay, so I think this is his 3rd season, so he's got some experience under his belt, still going with the same offensive coordinator, same offense, same quarterback, everything's the same, and I think that he's really going to emerge as one of the elite running backs in the league. He's big, powerful, and fast. He's got the combo of like what makes a great running back, so I think he's going to have a really great year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna really go against it. He had a good season besides the fumble that cost the Bengals a playoff win.
Of course.
But are you really gonna take him over guys like Doug Martin, Thomas Rawls, LaShawn McCoy?
Okay.
C.J. Anderson.
I cannot trust C.J. Anderson or Doug Martin. They have not proven themselves enough. They're not constant at all. I've had both of them on my fantasy teams at one point or another, and they always seem to they have a big game. Everyone's like, oh, pick these guys up, or I'm glad I drafted these guys. And all of a sudden they start tanking. They have 3 straight games where they're just giving you 3-5 points. And I hate having players that you think they're going to be good every week, and you play them, you put them in, and then they give you a bad day or a bad game. And then you think, oh, there was just one game, so I'm going to put them in. But then they consistently start having bad games. The second you take them out, they have a great game, and so they're just stuck on your team like that, just wavering between the bench and the starting spots. So I just don't like players like that in general. I like having constant running backs.
What about Jamal Charles?
Jamal Charles, I don't know, man. He's getting old. He got hurt last year.
Yeah,
so.
But he had a great year. And then, you know what?
He did.
I'm going to say right now, and if anyone that disagrees with me, feel free to talk to me. But if Jamal Charles went down, you got Sarkisian West, I'd take him over Jeremy Hill.
Possibly, but that's not a situation that's viable at this point. I mean, I'm not saying that Jamal Charles is going to go down indefinitely. I'm saying that I think Jamal Charles is going to be hurt throughout the entire season. I think he's always going to have a nagging injury on him because he seems to be that type of guy at the moment, at least.
Yeah, but we'll see. But I think, Thomas Rawls is an up-and-coming running back. Running backs, Marshawn Lynch.
Rawls is unique. Rawls is really unique because
he is.
The Seahawks offense, the Seahawks running game has always been pound the ball, but Rawls is kind of a different guy. Rawls is more of a speed back. So it's just really interesting to watch him sometimes, see what he can do. When the Seahawks line is not running the way that they should with Rawls as their running back because they're not used to him, he kind of gets a little far too ahead of them and gets tackled in the open field a lot by a lot of the safeties or corners and everything. So he can't get as many yards as he could if the linebackers kind of shifted out and everything like that. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Rawls is going to fit in with the Seahawks line as a starter now.
That was probably, he was hurt. He hurt himself last year. So now I think I don't know if he's back yet in training camp, but, he's, the guys like Procise and other guys like the backups are getting more reps. But I think that's definitely, what you said as a talking point. That's probably what Pete Carroll is going to talk about is, you got to wait for the play to develop, right? The linemen are there to help you get, into the open field, and you can't be ahead of them because then you have no blockers and you can't take on the defense by yourself. So, yeah, you're right. He is unique. He's not the Marshawn Lynch pound guy who's, a little bit slower, but he's gonna, he's gonna have that cutback lane or he's gonna have that bounce because, he's reading the lineman. So, I mean, Thomas Rawls, it's all about, wasn't he a rookie, right? So it's all about.
Yes.
It's all about, he wants to get out there. He wants to make plays. But, you realize that sometimes you got to slow down a little bit, and then you got to hit your burst. So, probably, it's in the Truckman camp, and we'll see how that goes. But Yeah, I mean Jeremy Hill, it's not a bad pick. He's definitely a flex, maybe an RB3 on the bye week, but I don't see him as the top 5 like you do. But I can't judge your opinions, but we'll see how that plays out.
You don't see who is the top 5? Hill?
Yeah.
Did you say that you don't see? Okay, Hill. Yeah. Okay, I understand that, but I just think that Hill's going to have a great year. But yeah, like you said, we'll see.
Shocking picks, Matt. You got Cutler in your QBs and Hill in your running backs.
I like to be bold sometimes.
Yeah, you do. All right, let's move on to sleeper running backs. I have Langford from the Bears. What do you got, Matt?
Okay, yeah, I have the exact same thing. I do have Langford from the Bears. The Bears' offensive line is practically recharged, insane, and young this year. So I want to pull up the Bears' offensive line. Obviously, they have Kyle Long, like we said, 3-time All-Pro.
Kyle Long, Horonis Sue, Ted Lawson. They got
Massey, right?
You got Macy, yeah. So they have great. They have a rejuvenated offensive line. So,
right. I think that this youth and everything and freshness is going to bring about a whole new sorry for interrupting, but I think it's going to bring about a whole new type of run game. I really like Langford's run game. I think he's fast. I think that he's powerful. I think that he hits the holes that he should. I think that he gets the amount of yards that's required. He doesn't try to push things and maybe bring the ball backfield a little bit to try to get more yards. He's really more of a straightforward, vertical type of guy. Runs between the hash marks and everything like that and gets the job done.
Yeah. The other day, Kadeem Carey, Bears running back, he addressed the media and talked about how great this offensive line has been, and he loves running behind this line because they're just so big and they're so quick that he says he can't see the D lineman because he has such a great line in front of him and they're just opening holes for him, and that's something hopefully that carries to Langford, and probably all the running backs are seeing it, that this line is not a joke. The Bears have had their struggles, and all teams have struggled with the whole line, but especially the Bears in the past couple of years. They can't find a tackle to protect Cutler's blind side. They can't find a center. The only guys in the past couple of years they've really had is Kyle Long. They lost, their first round picks sometimes don't work out. But now they went out, they didn't get the big name lineman, right? They got the reliable lineman.
Right.
So yeah, I'm definitely interested to see how Langford does. He came in last year and he showed the Bears, the front office and the coaches that, moving on from Forte is going to be hard, but it's not going to be as hard now that Langford has shown himself.
Exactly. He really had a burst of 3 great games when Forte was down.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned you were actually at the Bears training camp a couple days ago, right?
I was at Bears training camp. Yeah.
So did you get to see Langford or anything like that? Any experience with him?
I did see Langford. I did see Langford a little bit. He had some great catches out of the backfield. They were doing, when I was there, they were doing a lot of running back work out of the backfield, like receiving, they were doing screens, they were doing a lot of wheel routes and stuff like that. I really didn't see him run a lot. When they were in the scrimmages, Kadeem Carey had the ball a ton for some reason. Maybe they're just maybe seeing how he plays. But no, Langford, he was catching the ball great. He had great burst. And he had a couple good runs where he bounced outside, but no, yeah, he was doing great out of the receiving. But no, I saw
if I remember correctly, Langford had a couple of really nice one-handed catches down the end of the season last year, a lot of clutch catches and things like that. So he's going to be good in the receiving game as well.
Yeah, and we can talk about the O-line, but seeing it in person, they're just ginormous.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're big, but they're quick. And, they're up there, and they're playing against some great D linemen. It's good practice. They got to handle Akeem Hicks. They got to handle Will Young. They got to handle new Leonard Floyd, who right now is dealing with
Leonard
injuries.
Floyd is another topic for another day.
Yeah, that is. We could have a whole podcast on how I think he needs to grow up.
Exactly.
But, he practiced today, so maybe it's the start of something new. But
we'll see.
We'll see. But no, yeah, the Bears line is already having good practice. They're not playing against crappy D linemen. They're playing against some pretty good guys, and they got to, and they got to deal with blitzing Trevathan and blitzing Freeman. So, it was good to see those guys out there and see them compete. So I think Langford is definitely your running back. Your RB1 or RB2 goes down, boom, Langford goes right in there with no problem.
Right, it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. All right, so moving on, who do you have as sort of a RB3 or like a little backup? You know, you need a bye week, you need a running back. Who are you going to put in?
Danny Woodhead.
Interesting.
You know, he's always been, he's always been that one guy that, the later rounds come, like, who am I going to pick? I need someone. I'm not just going to waste the pick. And then you see, Danny Woodhead. You're like, he's not going to, like, you see him picked, you're like, whatever. I don't need him. But then, it always, time and time again, he's always the number one guy on the waiver wires. If he's not drafted, or, he has those games where he has 1 or 2 touchdowns because he's a great receiving back. He's not a good running back. He's more of like a wide receiver and a running back's position.
Right. He always plays.
Yeah. He's not
plays
built
with
like
full head of heart and everything like that.
Yeah, he's not built like a running back. He's kind of a small little guy, but red zone he's good. Open field, put him as a check down. We always found a way last year to give you points somewhere. So, he's not a flex player. No, he's not a flex at all. He is your bye week player. He is your injury to a flex, and then you got to find someone on the waiver wire, but you really can't, or you're trying to make a trade. Just pop in Woodhead, and hopefully he can give you at least a touchdown or maybe 40, 50 yards, because he's not an awful player, and Philip Rivers has made him a good player. So he's definitely a guy to target toward the end of your draft.
Right. Who I have as a backup is, like I said earlier, Tevin Coleman. I really think that he's going to step up and take the job from Devonta Freeman now. Obviously, we can't debate that. We can't debate that right now. It's not the regular season yet, so we'll have to see what happens. But I really do think that Tevin Coleman coming into his second year after his rookie season, he had a strong rookie season, a little shaky because he got hurt a few times. But when he did have the starting job, he proved to be pretty good. So I think that he's going to come up and show what he can do.
Do you have a jersey yet?
For who?
Coleman.
I should get one.
You're one of those.
I'll get one
you're
ordered
one of those
before.
guys who are going to get a Tevin Coleman jersey.
I'll probably get one ordered.
All right.
I think he's a good player. I think he is kind of small, but I think that he's extremely fast and he's really quick and he has that agility to get up the field. He's more of a side-to-side type of guy, but I think he's going to find some ways to get some great yardage.
The Falcons didn't really abandon him. Freeman just came out as this.
They did.
They really did abandon him?
Yeah, they definitely abandoned him. They barely, he got hurt, and then they gave Freeman the chance, and Freeman proved to be pretty good, but they really never gave Coleman another shot to have the ball for the majority of the time. Yeah. So I really think that if they do give him a shot, though, he can show what he can do.
Yeah, it can be a great 1-2 punch, for sure. So I think Coleman has to prove that he was that guy in the first couple weeks, right, in preseason training camp. But I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm just saying that there's plenty of other guys above Coleman that you should try and target before you even think about a backup like him.
Understandable.
All right, so let's move on to maybe one of the most controversial things right now in fantasy is rookie running backs. So Matthew Berry, he's got his top 5 running backs. And in the top 5 is a guy from Ohio State called Ezekiel Elliott. He's at number 3 above guys like Freeman and Bell and Martin and even Eddie Lacy, the new and improved Eddie Lacy. So, Matt, I want to hear your take first on why you think Elliott's in the top 5. Right, we seem to have lost Matt, but hopefully he's reconnecting. So I was shocked to see Ezekiel Elliott in the top 5. First off, you got Dallas. They have already 3 running backs. So they got Elliott, they got Darren McFadden, and they signed Alfred Morris. So you got 3 running backs who have all been starters. So you're wondering how are they gonna, spread out the time, spread out the carries? Elliott could be used in the red zone for sure. He's big. He's gonna get you those yards to get into the end zone. I like Alfred Morris more in the open field, and Darren McFadden. You really don't know about Darren McFadden because he's had some injury issues. So I think Darren McFadden would be the first guy to go down here. If he does with injury, he'd be the first guy to go down. So then, there goes Darren McFadden. So he goes down. So then you have Morris and Elliott. So then Elliott gets more of the carries. But I don't see how, guys, like Matthew Berry can put Elliott in the top 5 with the running backs that are in Dallas right now. Matt, do you agree?
Yeah, right. Sorry, I had to take a quick break. Yeah, no, I totally agree about the fact that I would not rank Ezekiel Elliott in top 5. I think that with all the running backs that they have, like you said, McFadden, Alfred Morris and everything. Alfred Morris really is a good running back. He was good for the Redskins when he was on the team. So I really don't like ranking Ezekiel Elliott high. I do have Ezekiel Elliott as my top rookie because I think at some point he's going to show that he should be the starting running back. But I think now with the three-headed monster running back duo, or trio, I should say, I really think that he's not going to get the type of points that you're going to want for the first few weeks.
And while you were away, I touched on how Darren McFadden has had trouble staying healthy throughout the past couple of years. So then, if McFadden goes down, then you got, you have Ezekiel Elliott and Morris. So then you can have Elliott get more carries. But I think what they're looking at here for Elliott in the top running back is his potential to actually break out and be a good rookie, which is possible, right? So,
he could become like a Todd Gurley type of thing.
Yeah.
He comes back, or he comes in later in the year.
Yeah. So, you're going to give Elliott his carries to start off the year, right? And if he emerges, and, it's like let's go back to your Coleman and Freeman situation in Atlanta, right? Well, Coleman got hurt, but then Freeman emerges, and then, you said Coleman never got another shot. But it can be different in Dallas in a way because you give Elliott, let's say he starts out with, 7 to 10 carries in his first couple games as a rookie. If he gets the yardage, he scores a touchdown or two, and, he can also pass block. Pass blocking is so important when it comes to running backs these days because not many can do it. And you're not going to start if you can't block because it's, more of a passing league. Can't just be, you can't just have, you can't just plop in Morris every time you're going to pass because, that shows a weakness. So Morris has Ezekiel Elliott has a lot to do with seeing if he can show that he can play.
Right, he does have a lot to prove. The Cowboys' offense, like usual, though, is outstanding right now, so we'll really see what he can do sometime during the season down the line.
Yeah. So the Cowboys, they have some work to do. I would think that Elliott would be your guy to come out on the first offensive snap of the regular season, but it could be Alfred Morris. It's not going to be Darren McFadden for sure.
No.
So
we'll have between Morris
and Elliott. But the Jerry Jones move would be put Elliott out there for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll really see. So should we move on to our last topic of the day?
Sure.
All right. So what do you do about Tom Brady? Do you draft him? Do you put him on your bench and sit him and then play him later? Do you stash him? Or do you just not bother about him and leave him be?
It's a tough decision. He has, he's got Gronk, he's got Edelman. He puts up these numbers. But then there's some days, he hasn't. It's not like the Aaron Rodgers kind of QB. Like there's some weeks where he doesn't really do that well. There was a period of time where Tom Brady wasn't really your guy to start in fantasy. He really wasn't the fantasy QB. He's more of like the real life QB because there's like a difference. So, you're wondering, he's not going to appeal. So he's already suspended 4 games. So, it's really hard to tell. I think you got to really gauge the draft. I think most guys, most draft, maybe, probably are going to say, forget about him. Maybe hopefully I can get him after I get a starting lineup. Right? Because, I think once you get your starting lineup, you can, and then get 1 or 2 bench players, and then you can start going for your other needs that, drop. So I think Brady, if he drops to where you already got maybe a wide receiver, 2 RBs, a QB, and a tight end, you can just draft Brady and, you take him away from the other guys who wanted to get him.
Right. If I'm going to draft Tom Brady, I'm gonna draft him one of the last picks, either the last round or the second to last round, because I really don't think that Tom Brady just had his birthday today. I think he's age 39 now. I really don't think that he's going to put out the same results that he's been putting out for the past years. Although he is coming into the season fresh, though, a couple games in. So he could put out some big numbers early on when he comes back, just because he's going to be fresh. But he also might be a little bit shaky. Tom Brady has never come into the season not playing the first game, except for the year that he came in for Drew Bledsoe when Bledsoe went down, and that's when Brady rose to fame as the kind of Patriots franchise quarterback. So it might be hard for Brady, but it might be actually easier for Brady on his knees and everything, in terms of injury related problems. So we'll have to see. But if I am going to stash him, if he's available the last few rounds, then I'll take him. If not, so be it. I'll grab another quarterback. It's not the end of the world. So we'll just really have to see there what happens.
And, guys like Brady, and other guys around, Major League Sports, like an Ichiro or Jerome Yager, they continue to define that age sometimes doesn't matter. Tom Brady is, he's 39, but he's still produced, he's still a couple of years, he's close to another Super Bowl. He's just, always that one game short. Last year he got dominated by Denver. But, if maybe a couple throws turned a different way, then he would have been in the Super Bowl versus Cam Newton. So, I really don't know if he's really going to have a drop-off. I think he's not, when he starts, dropping off a little bit, not to the Tom Brady that we all know, it's not going to be drastic. It's going to be, I think, little by little. But, yeah, I agree with you. And, you get him in the later rounds, or maybe the last, if you're right, fifth to last round, you already got your four, you already got 3 or 4 bench players, and heck, you maybe missed out on a QB. You kind of took QB too late, then get Tom Brady, because then all you got to do is wait 4 weeks and he's back.
Right. Yeah, I really think that the only positions that players can really play consistently well into their late 30s is quarterback and kicker, or punter, obviously. I think every other position, struggles, as you see with Calvin Johnson, Marshawn Lynch. They're all retiring early now. But, yeah, quarterback, punter, kicker, those are the 3 positions that I really think you can still perform consistently well, even into your late 30s and everything like that, as we've seen with Favre and Peyton Manning, although Peyton Manning was deteriorating, which is what I like. That's kind of what I'm worrying about Brady, is he's going to start to deteriorate like Peyton Manning did. But, I'm actually anxious. What do you do, Grillo? Do you take him? Weeks? I really don't know, because he has a great offense. He's under Bill Belichick. He's one of the best coaches of all time. He's
got the best pattern in the game in Gronk.
Right.
Hopefully he doesn't get.
I don't know what to do.
Hopefully he doesn't get the Manning curse, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see about that. Madden curse is another topic that I hate talking about, because I believe in it. But
like what you said about Peyton Manning, he started to deteriorate, and everyone's like, Peyton Manning just needs to get out of the game. He's ruining his reputation. But at the same time, he wasn't, because he just wants to go out there and play. And look what he did. He won a Super Bowl. In his last season, he retired as a champion. So, and Tom Brady is going to have the same fight no matter what. He decided to take his 4 games, but I was actually surprised, because he's a winner, and Tom Brady wants to win, and I thought he was going to take it farther, but obviously he didn't. But it's going to send a message that I think he's going to come back better than ever. He's got a lot of time off. He's going to coach Garoppolo, because right now Garoppolo he's the franchise QB of the future. So it's not Tom Brady to be the teacher, and then he's going to come back on, and he's going to return to the Tom Brady that we all know. And I think most will forget about Deflategate, because once he returns to the Tom Brady, and probably he might even be the best QB in the league again. Even missing 4 games a quarter of the season, that's a lot to miss. He's going to be behind in the stat category, and who knows what the Patriots' record's going to be. But but talking fantasy, do not take him as your QB1. Do not take him even maybe as your QB2. Right? Wait and see where he goes. That's the beauty of mock drafts, right? So the mock drafts aren't going to be your drafting with your friends. or like, you know, people that you know, and that sometimes helps because like you know how they feel on the subject, and then you can say, oh, they don't like him, so then here you go, he's gonna drop. So then, you know, I'll be able to smack him because no one else wants him. But then mock drafts, you can see what other people think, right? Some people might actually take him as their QB1 and then go for a QB2 and start him instead of Brady for the first 4 weeks. So it's not, you know, that's the part of the mock drafts. You just gotta gauge where he's gonna go and see what I think he's gonna do.
Right, you never know.
All right, so
that really hits all our topics
that's
that
all our
we
topics.
tried talking about today.
So today we talked about our QBs. We had the top QBs, the top running backs. Then we talked to sleepers and backups, and then we had our ending segments. We had Ezekiel Elliott and Tom Brady. So we'll see how that plays out. Next podcast we'll hit the wide receivers. I think we'll have wide receivers all by itself, Matt.
Maybe throw in tight ends. Maybe.
I mean, it's
wide
receivers.
There's a lot of wide receivers, though.
There is. I mean, I was looking at the rankings. I think all top 50 wide receivers are possible guys to put in your lineup. It's just the crazy passing league now, and there was a lot of rookies drafted, and a lot of rookies are going to make an impact. So wide receivers, that's you got the 2 wide receiver slots, and you got the flex. So you have plenty of room to put those guys in there. So that's what Matt and I will talk about next time. So Matt, thanks for coming on. The first podcast, it was good.
Thank you for having me. It was a good time. Fun to be here.
All right, thanks everyone for tuning in, and you can get me on Twitter at ThomasGibbons_3. Matt, where can we find you on Twitter?
Matthew DeWitt, and then just an underscore. Just check the description for the details.
Yeah, sounds good. And if you missed any part of our podcast, I will upload, and you can listen to the full podcast. You can check my Twitter or Matt's Twitter, my Facebook or his Facebook, and we will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too, Matt.